Hello, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you so much for joining us today for our regular session, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we take your questions live about U.S. immigration law and general educational purposes only, not intended as individual legal guidance. But we answer your questions about this confusing area of law known as U.S. immigration, which changes every 2 seconds. And sometimes it's strict, sometimes it's not. Different countries are treated differently, different offices do differently. There's a lot going on there. So we use this time to kind of give some relief to people, some better understanding what's going on in certain areas, practice areas for immigration law that our office handles. So let's get started with that today. If you have any questions, please shout it out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you're watching on TikTok in particular, feel free to press the like button and let us know more about where you're from and all that kind of stuff. But I want to give you a heads up. I was at a USCIS interview this morning. It was a couple that were doing a marriage green card, and a very nice couple. And we got there. First and foremost, it took like an hour and a half for me to be able to get in the building. It was going that slow. The line wasn't as big. Sometimes it goes around the building. This time it was halfway around the building, but they were very slowly bringing people in, which is different. But when we went in, they called us in pretty quick, and we sat for the interview. And most of the time, the officer was talking and saying scary stuff about fraud and all this kind of stuff. I think it was to see if the client gets riled up or worried or says something crazy. But they're a real couple. They had a lot of documents. The officer tried to test them. It was pretty much 40 minutes of the officer talking and saying, testing them. But they did great and were approved on the spot, which doesn't happen too often. Even USCIS has said they're going to avoid that. But I've had 2 cases in the last 45 days that were approved on the spot. So really happy for that. And we'll have to see what happens. The green card should come next. But just prepared. Interviews are happening. In this case, it was a person whose status had expired while the case was pending. There's a fear in certain field offices that ICE could come and pick you up. But in Los Angeles, it's not typical, especially on these kind of cases where it's clean. And the reason for falling out of status is just because the government's massive delay in the case. We have a question on Instagram. Evans is IR5 scheduled for January 2022 in Abu Dhabi for our national. Well, fortunately, I'm sorry to hear that because it probably took you 2 years to get that interview date. But now the family member is going to be subject to a travel ban unless they show they're a religious or ethnic minority in the United States. And what happens with a travel ban? Will they just hold to your case or deny and send it back? I'm not clear how they're going to process that stuff because only people are just recently getting these stuff. But Iran International is subject to the travel ban. So hopefully, there are a religious or ethnic minority to show that and follow with an exception. If not, you're in a limbo right now. See how that goes. I'm avoiding having my cases for the most part, if I can, go to interview right now, pending lawsuits and seeing what's happening with the effective travel ban on nationals of that country. Dabs asks, I got my visa on December 31st. Can I travel to the U.S.? I'm from a partial ban country. I don't remember the technicalities of the travel ban in particular, so I'd have to read that. In the previous travel ban that was issued, I think if you had an immigrant visa issued, you could still come in, but I haven't had cases in your particular scenario, so I didn't read the memo with that detail. But go look at the travel ban executive order, the updated one from President Trump, and see if it applies to people who have, if there's an exception for people that have issued immigrant visas or not. Right off the top of my head, I don't know because I haven't had this scenario. So when I was reading it, I was searching for other things that affect my clients. Evan says, should he still go to the interview? That goes into giving individual legal guidance on whether someone I don't know and I'm not the attorney of should or should not do anything for their legal case. So, Evan, unfortunately, I can't answer that question. Yaya says, priority date January 8th. Do you think I'll be able to file I-485 between May and August from Canada? So you're asking me to guess like when things are going to be current for your case. I'm unable to do that. I can't guess the future. So I can only talk about what I can't speculate on. Gordisa says, can someone from travel get citizenship from the travel? I think from a travel ban country. So no, not right now. They are actively, like I had a client who's from a travel ban country. They did their citizenship interview and they got a notice to appear for an oath ceremony so they get citizenship. But between the time of the interview and the time of the oath ceremony, President Trump did the travel ban travel pause for cases on USCIS. And unfortunately, they got immediate notice saying, do not come to your oath ceremony. We still got to do whatever they got to do. Who knows what they're actually doing? But that is a major issue. Aliyah says, when will I receive the MVC welcome letter if USCIS semi-approved case on December 5th? We'll wait 30 days. I mean, it's been 30 days. Try contacting the National Visa Center. Well, Aliyah, do this first and foremost. Go look at your I-130 approval notice and double check that it does say that they're sent the case to the National Visa Center. If so, depending on the receipt notice, they change the wording. You might have information on how to contact them or how long to wait. But if it's been 30 days and the case was sent to the NBC, it says that on the I-130 approval notice. It kind of depends on what kind of case you have. So if it's a case of brother or sister of U.S. citizen, it might take a while because that case is like backed up, so it doesn't make a difference. But you could always go to the National Visa Center's contact page and send them a message on their website to say, hey, here's my, where it says case number, use your USCIS number, and you can say, hey, where's the case? It was supposed to have been sent over, and see what they say. Talk Pro says, hi, John, how concerned should one from a country with a partial H1B be to attend a biometrics appointment? I haven't heard of there being issues for people that have, don't have removal orders or criminal history having issues at the biometrics appointment. So I wouldn't say particularly worried at all. But yeah, I can't say that tomorrow will be different. But so far, I haven't heard that be a problem. Evan says, what happens if you get 212F? Does it mean your case is closed? It depends on however they want to handle it. The last travel ban, they would send these cases back sometimes, those 212F, and Biden administration reopened them. But some people are saying on Reddit that they just did that and the case is just refused, not denied. It's still with NBC. I don't know. So I don't know. This is all new. They're making this stuff up every day as it's going forward. So I don't exactly know how it's going to work out. Palba says, can I travel with the U.S. with granted asylum status? Within the U.S., yeah, if you're sadly have your paperwork, you can travel within the United States. Don't leave the U.S., though. Guardert says, can they renew the green card? I think they could do an I-90 renewal, but I-751, but I can't remember exactly. I think they did a 90, but they should do it anyways if they have to. Yeah, says, based on the current movements, I just want a rough estimate. The visa bulletin movement, there's no, I don't know what, I'm not checking the visa bulletin day, so you could always check that yourself. But with regard to future movements, there's no consistency. The line will move like 2 months forward, and then it'll move 8 months back, and then move 3 months forward. So there's not a consistency. So anyone realistically would say it. All of a sudden, you have like 6 months where it doesn't move at all. So it's an impossible question to answer. It's like telling the future kind of thing. So it's not realistic for me to give an opinion on something that's just so impossible for me to know. Anyone know, even the government. Seth says, if someone overstayed his visa and gets married with a U.S. citizen, can he be taken by ICE in the interview? Unfortunately, yeah, they're doing that to some people. Evan says, if my dad is not a minority exception, letter of hardship can help in this interview for Jen? Probably not. You give it a shot, but I don't. Hardship doesn't make a difference. It's more about the specific exception of being a minority or of some time. That's the only exception they have. They don't have a hardship, but give it a shot if you're going to go. Why not? But they probably won't care, unfortunately. Okay, let's see. Therese says, what makes someone a good candidate for the VAWA route, especially with the updates? A real case, they're a victim of physical abuse, severe emotional harm, and they've documented. That makes someone a good candidate for that kind of visa category, the Violence Against Women's Act. Help I answer your question. Silver Dragon says, hi, I-130, I-485, thanks, 5, Australian, married to a citizen, December 22nd, received. Will I get a receipt soon? Yeah, you should have got it already. If the check was cash, you would know if it happened. So they took the money if you use a credit card or ATM card. Carlos says, what about the I-751 for trial ban? Would it still be processing? No, those are going to be paused as well, unfortunately. Elena Dani says, boyfriend and I want to get married after 3M. I had 2021 Ven TPS, Venezuela. Thoughts on filing PIP? He's military. It depends on if PIP doesn't really make a difference. If you had lawful entry, I mean, you could do it. It goes with very specific case law, but you might be subject to certain travel bans because you're from Venezuela, so you have to see what's going on there. But if you have lawful entry, you should look into that too. The thing is, if you go to parole in place, they may still pick you up. There's a lot of nuances we got to talk about there. That's a very specific trick scenario. I don't want to talk here about it because I got to spend like 30 minutes talking with you about your life. It's too risky to just give some fast little piece of information that's not going to be as helpful. Ahmed says, N400 interview approved August 2025, Santa Ana. Waiting for judicial oath due to name change status. Still oath ceremony rescheduled. Does 1447B make sense now or should I wait a bit? You could always sue if you want to. I'd probably wait. And what country are you from, Ahmed? That could be a problem too. You're welcome, Guardice. Question mark says, I'm currently trying to change my status to F1 and school starts next week. What do I do? You're going to have some problems. You have to change the status, probably do pre and processing, but it's probably not going to get done in time. Nay says, hey, John, how difficult is it to gain citizenship if only child support are currently paying? So historically, child support payments it wasn't something that came up. Back taxes were, but I think under this administration, they're going to look at it as bad moral character. How much back moral payment is it? What's the relationship? Like it depends on the facts and your background and why this happened, how you're paying it back, and what kind of person you are. It's not like it's not you tell me two pieces of information. I can say it's like this. It's up to the officer how they judge you, and so we got to put your best foot forward to see how you can be judged in the most positive light. Something like that. It said I'm not restricting those countries. Yeah. So if it's 600, 120 days or something like that in your citizenship case after interview is not done, you can sue them if you want to spend the money and time on it. Why not? But I'd want to review your case too to make sure like there's no issues with it. Ash says, does USCIS pause N400 for DVLPR? Not for DVLPRs, diversity visa lottery winners. The whole diversity visa lottery program is the issue. They might be looking into that. But I'm not sure if LPRs, I don't think they're pausing that because the DV itself isn't in the travel ban. But I'd have to confirm that. I never looked at it that way. I don't think so, but I can't say 100% certainty, but I'm very unlikely that they're pausing those. Hello, Dr. Royalty. Silver Dragon says, I'm due to leave the U.S. on the 19th. Do I stay if I still haven't received a receipt notice? Silver, that's like a big life decision. So we got to see, you would know. Did the money leave your account yet, or did they charge your credit card, or what? H Ball says hi from Chicago. Hey, good to see you. H Ball from Chicago. Thanks so much. How are things over there? H says I went to an interview 2 weeks ago, but one of those countries is banned. What are they gonna do? They're gonna just pause your case. No promoting your products on my feed. Let's see. Mute accounts. Okay. Teresa says, what are routes for people who crossed illegally over 30 years ago having married to U.S. citizen? So you'd have to file an I-130, show your relationship is real, and then get a waiver, I-601A. But that's risky. ICE might come and pick you up. So there's not much you can do right now unless you fall with an exception like 245I or a VAWA exception, Violence Against Women's Act, your spouse is abusive to you. So it's not any good options right now. Not many good options. Guardier says, how long is the travel ban for? I don't know. However, whenever President Trump wakes up and says it's done, really. Number one says, I paid for premium processing and got sent a notice of intent to deny in December, and my attorney submitted evidence December 15th. I'm Nigerian also, so you're going to be subject to the ban. I'm not sure what you can do there, unfortunately. Nay says, wasn't working. I'm not sure what the rest of the question is. Slow Dragon says, should I have a receipt notice already if paying via direct bank payment? It doesn't matter. So if you paid, you should have a receipt notice already. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes the post office loses it. Sometimes USCIS takes a while. But we recommend using like a credit card or ATM card so that when they take the money out, you can see it was taken out. And that way you know that they have the case. And even if the receipt notice hasn't been sent yet, it's good. Now, there's another form. I think it's called G. This is why you have to have a lawyer really on this stuff. But if you submit a form G1145, G-1145 with the case, you would have got a text message with your case number, and that would have helped out so at least you know that you got it. So, even if you overstay, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, refiling after you overstay is not particularly an issue. Some field offices will, ICE will come get you, but that'll be the same anyways if you filed it right now. So they'll talk with the immigration lawyer in private, see what happened there. Mailed it to the right place. There's a lot of mistakes that people will do when they file on their own. Evan says, why some lawyers advise that if you're not in a minority group exception, don't attend the interview, and some say you should go, so we are confused. So Evan, in the last travel ban, my advice was that you just don't go to your interview, and then they'll just pause the case, and you can reschedule one later. You just have to contact the embassy once a year to keep the case alive. However, this time around, some colleagues are reporting that they'll just deny your case if you do that, and Trump is changing it where if you miss your appointment, you're denied. And I haven't had case examples, know exactly what's happening, advise on that, but they may be handling things differently. So the information some lawyers are advising is based on the Trump first administration. That was the strategy to do. And that's the strategy I recommended. Up till recently, some people are saying online no it's different, something like that. So that becomes a problem. Like I'm like which what's going on. So that's why it makes it hard. I don't have firsthand knowledge that I can give to you, and unless I have firsthand knowledge about something, I don't want to sit here and tell people information that's is unreliable. I gotta do my best. So it's better I say I don't know than give information that's incorrect. Nawal says, are any adjustment of status happening for Venezuelans? Would mandamus help? There should be no, they paused it, but it's not a mandamus lawsuit per se, but there is a group lawsuit happening right now for people who are subject to this. They have a case pending. The government did this. They're filing this lawsuit pretty soon. So that's something to look into. Love His Handmaid says, good evening. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. You're welcome. Really appreciate it. My green card case underemployment has been under review since October. How long does the I-45 case last? It's endless. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 months. Sometimes it takes years to do it, even if your case is current. So there's no time frame that they'll get it done by. Evan says, thank you. You're welcome. Teresa says, what increases the odds of a green card approval for a person married to a U.S. citizen did illegal entry? It's not about odds. It's like, first, I-130 has to be a real marriage, so that gets approved. Then it's, do a waiver. What increases the odds? The more horrible your life is as the U.S. citizen and that needs your spouse, and that's, unfortunately, for the waiver to be approved. But in the meantime, ICE may come and pick up your spouse. So it's with illegal entry, there's a lot of problems. Now, if you're in a relationship and you're abusive, you, the person asking a U.S. citizen, or whoever is abusive to the spouse, and maybe a VAWA exception, the person may have what's called a 245I exception. There's always exceptions here and there, but that's it's an overview of like options. XC says, any hope for partial ban country green card approval in January for U.S. spouse? I don't know. We got to see what happens. How can I get some help? Contact the immigration lawyer. Priyanshi says, how is Charlotte Immigration Court about asylum cases? Well, I don't handle immigration court, and I don't handle asylum cases, and I don't do anything with Charlotte, so I'm not a good attorney to ask that question about. Mo says, I just renewed a green card for a third time now, and I want to hire an attorney to apply for citizenship. Sure. Mo, I would say go first and foremost, download my ultimate, I should have told us at the beginning of the show, ultimate naturalization citizenship guide. Go to jqqlaw.com/citizenship. Download that guide, 50 pages. Review it for information on the process, and then schedule a consultation. We'll talk about it. But for everyone else, if you're interested in a marriage green card case, I have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, the website, it's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And download that guide. It's free guide, 70 pages going through everything. And then for citizenship, I have a guide called the Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide. You go to jqqlaw.com/citizenship, jqqlaw.com/citizenship, and you can download that guide. Love His Handmaid says, thank you. You're welcome. Nawal says, we're going to answer your question. Casimir says, can you travel to the U.S. with a valid visa, even though you are from a banned country? I think there's an exception if you already have a visa, they'll let you in, but I don't remember the details, so I'd have to review the travel ban. Jack5 says, I filed VAWA in March, but still didn't get a receipt number yet. 9 months already, I'm worried. So when it comes to cases like VAWA, U visas and stuff, they're really delayed in giving receipts. I have a U visa case where they sent us a biometrics appointment notice, which has a receipt number on it. We never got a receipt number. And so, unfortunately, hopefully it went through properly, but that's a really obnoxious thing. They're not sending receipt notices, and they're taking forever. GQ said, I received an interview notice for family petition. My lawyer didn't. Is it odd? No, I mean, sometimes it gets later to the employer. The post office loses it. USCIS forgets to send it. I have a case right now where they sent me the receipt notice for the applicant. It's an I-751, and that receipt notice is a continuation that exists, and they sent my attorney version to the client. So I got to mail this to him now. So it could be a million different things that are not you or your attorney's fault. Jessica says, is this safe for a resident travel internationally with a misdemeanor DUI? I'd have to review the circumstances of that DUI, what happened in the conviction, what happened in court, what were the circumstances, did you hit somebody, did you deal with all the traffic court stuff and classes, are you a habitual DUI person? So we got to review everything. Technically, one DUI is not an inadmissibility issue. So like I have clients who have DUIs in the past and then went, but we got to study the case to make sure everything is good in order. There's not other issues that may come up from it. Like sometimes, for example, you went to court and they dropped a misdemeanor case. It's actually, we made a mistake. You weren't a DUI misdemeanor, but they forget to put it into the system, into the FBI system properly. When you're coming in, they just show you, oh, you haven't gone to your court case. You have a warrant out for your arrest. You're like, no, I swear I went to my court case. Everything was fine. They're like, well, I don't know. Well, that's when you have the paperwork to show. I have the record. I'm not sure why that. We asked you first to do an FBI background check, maybe a state background check, but also have the conviction record, have it on your phone at the very least. So if you're coming back in, they ask you to show that stuff. So as you see, there's just a lot of back work that we got to do to keep you safe as much as possible. But generally, people are travel. But again, you want to do it the right way, prep and all that kind of stuff. Preparation is key. Athar says, I need to find an attorney for pro bono filing my green card application. Well, there's a lot of organizations who do that. I don't have any I can recommend. Our office does not do pro bono filings. Guardicata says, how long does it take to receive a new green card after renewal? If you're doing an I-90 10-year green card renewal, anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 or 3 years. AQSA says, since April, I'm waiting for another green card still. I didn't receive. How long does it take? I would call USCIS to see what's going on. Fish says, will there be an issue with multiple traffic tickets? It depends. If it's a lot, they could say you have bad moral character for driving belligerently. So it depends on what the tickets are, if you paid them and dealt with them, how consecutively they've been happening. It really depends on the facts of the situation. Project says, how to talk to a live agent about application status rather than automated voice. Well, you got to ask for, you want an appointment or something like that and get past the phone system. Amun says, did they stop the process of all I-130s to 19-banned countries? They say they've paused it. GQ said, thank you, sir. I appreciate your response. You're welcome. Sanders says, is lawfully accurate? I don't know. There's no way for me to check that. Ankit says, I'm behind my taxes. Is it going to be a problem for my green card under new rule? For my green card, well, what kind of green card case do you have? Do you have a green card existing and you haven't been paying your taxes, or are you applying for a green card? You haven't paid. What? I don't know where you are in the system. I need more specifics. Guardi says, can someone stay with an expired green card? Yes, they can. Technically, the government can arrest you for that, but they don't do that. But if you file for an extension of your green card, the extension notice, the receipt notice you get will be an extension notice. So you really want to properly file your paperwork. Please schedule, you have a lot of questions. I would say schedule a consultation time. Please go to jqklaw.com/contact and schedule a time there to talk about your case. Oh, we got a bunch of questions on YouTube I forgot to look at. Sorry, everybody. I'm back to YouTube. H. Ball says, I received my 10-year green card after my I-45 application was approved 2 years and 3 weeks in my marriage. Recently, I received a notice of removal conditions. Do I have to do that? We got to double check to see if 2 years had gone before marriage. If it had, you need to contact the government, try to fix it up and clarify it so they don't put you in removal proceedings. Monter says, slam, big boss. Good to see you, Monter. Good to see you. I'm an LPR since January. Congratulations. Congratulations. I come and go between Canada and the U.S. every couple of weeks until I finish my university in Canada, 2 years into the U.S. I filed for re-entry permit while being physically present in the U.S. I made sure to leave after they sent me the receipt. I've been delivered. I'm now waiting for biometrics notice and the mail to come back to it unless they waive it. They won't waive it anymore. They'll have you go. I'll be carrying my green card. Okay, so you'll probably be okay. Yeah, just let them know why you're going. It's for school and you're going to come back. PS Vet Gaming says, question, I'm a federal worker and my wife's a B1, B12. I need to do an adjustment of status for her. What is the process for that? She entered through a port of entry with valid I-94. She hasn't broken any rules. She's from Mexico. Well, she's going to be out of status, essentially, by the time case approved. But PS Vetting Game, I would recommend first downloading my guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That'll have the answer you need. But then schedule a private consultation to talk about your case. The website, again, is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. One there says, if one worked on STEM OPT for an employer that was E-Verify, but company's E-Verify terminated while a student was still working there, could this be a problem for a student when doing EBAOS? Maybe. If they continue working, they're working with authorization potentially. There's an exception called 245K, so you get up to 180 days of that okayed, but we need to see what's going on with your case. And Monte, I've only gone for educational purposes. I made clear application attached enrollment letter. That's good. You don't have to give it. Typically for re-entry permits, you don't have to really get into giving attachments, but you're fine most likely. The only problem with re-entry permits are that they're taking like a year or two to get approved, which is annoying because you want to have it in hand. Albert says, after biometrics, how long for I-90 till I get my green card? You haven't seen cases lately. There's no correlations between doing your biometrics, your fingerprinting appointments, and when your I-90 will be approved. So it could be a few months. It could be a few years before the green card renewal is approved. Monter says, thank you so much. Looking good as always. Thank you, brother. Cross my fingers with this administration. CBP nice to me. Hope for that to stay that way. Yeah, God bless. Yeah, it probably will. Anki says, applied for a green card after VAWA approved. Okay, I can't remember the rest of your question. Try to put it all in one place. Syed says, hi, how are you after submitting Form I-751 online? Later on, can we upload more evidence? Yeah, you can, but you got to be, people just update evidence. You got to make sure it's good evidence that you upload. So you generally can do that if you have an online system and it allows you to. Pratik says, how long is USCIS currently taking on average to process I-130, I-129? I'm guessing your U.S. citizen marriage case. I-129F could be anywhere from 7 to 20 months on average. It's such a huge average that makes it worthless. But I-130s for marriage, 12 to 16 months average. Saya, thank you for sending the likes and everything. You're welcome, Guardijikata. Hopefully I'll say your name properly one day. Jefferson Brooks says, can you please explain public charge, how beneficiaries can avoid it? So public charge was one of the original immigration laws that came in the late 1800s. They're worried that you're going to come here and not be able to take care of yourself. So the Trump administration, historically, as long as you have an affidavit of support sponsor, that's sufficient. But Trump administration wants to go hardcore, so they want to see if you speak and are fluent in English, if you have any education, if you have any skills, how you're going to take your health insurance, if you have any personal health issues, you're too old, you can't work, you're too young, you can't work, you can't make money, how much your savings and balances, how much debt do you have. So they're going to look at all this stuff to say, is this person going to be able to take care of themselves or not inside the United States? Leanne asks, I'm a naturalized citizen with a misdemeanor charge before I got my citizenship. Can I travel? Well, if you did not list that misdemeanor in your citizenship application, that could be a big problem. But if you listed it as the type of misdemeanor, it's not a problem. You can't travel potentially when you re-enter. Their computer will tell them that you have to send you to secondary to review your case and make sure it's okay, so it can cause delays. There's a thing called DHS trip that you could say, hey, listen, ahead of time, that this problem exists if it does exist. But I would have to review the misdemeanor, what you said in your F400 application. OG says, will people from partial ban country get EAD after filing AOS? No, that's held as well, unfortunately. Held back. Jefferson says, can you please explain public charge? All right, answer your question, Jefferson. Silver Dragon, how soon does the I-765 usually take? Everything else is okay. 9 out of 10 times we get those approved after 3 to 5 weeks in the last 12 months, but sometimes it takes much longer. Dakota says, would you recommend doing an account after folding for an account to add more information? Would you recommend doing an account after folding for an account to add more information? I'm not sure what that means. Ankit says, I applied I-485 based off approved VAWA. I'm behind on my taxes. It's going to be a problem for my green card. That could look like bad moral character for the officer that you did that. Manny says, have a payment plan and show that you're paying it. Manny says, hi, what's the timeline for adjustment status of parent in USA? I mean, I have to get these done in 4 or 5 months, but it could be 2 years. Really, they vary dramatically. Leanne says she did tell them. Okay, so that's good to know. Yeah, so it'll probably be okay, but just have the paperwork on your phone to show you're dealt with it. So, okay, cool. Appreciate the information. You're welcome, Silver Dragon. Good luck. All right, everybody, it's just in time. We're about to end the show. If you have 1 or 2 last questions, please let me know. So, should I have an issue changing from ESTA to green card? I shouldn't have an issue. I mean, that's up to the government. Typically, it's okay, but once you enter on ESTA and you overstay, the government could just pick you up and deport you if they want to without any hearing. So there's always that risk. Now, if you're in a city like San Diego doing your adjustment, that becomes a major issue because ICE is picking people up. But in most places right now, it's still not a problem. But we got to see, was there misrepresentation? Did you misuse the ESTA to come and visit the United States with the intent to stay here? Or is it just one of those things you came and your partner all of a sudden say, I want you to stay, don't leave me, all that kind of stuff, and you got married. So we got to look to see what happened in this situation. Mandy says, thanks, you're welcome. All right, I guess that's it for today. We got another minute and a half. I'll stay here to hit the full 30 minutes. Please ask your questions about U.S. immigration law. And I'd recommend, if you're looking into a marriage green card case, download our guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Then we also have a guide called the Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide. And you can download that one at jqqlaw.com/citizenship, jqqlaw.com/citizenship. So Dragon Falls, I came to U.S. having a vacation with wife, then decided to try for green card. Okay, usually that works, but there's risks involved under Trump administration. I have a job waiting once everything is approved, and that doesn't look good either that you have a job waiting. So we have to see how the whole situation looks. Historically, it's been okay, but the Trump administration is changing everything. Typically, if someone's overseas and they say, I'm going to come on ESTA and get married, I would say don't do that. But if you're here, you don't want to go back, then it's something you got to take a risk on. Jefferson says, is being married to U.S. citizen that makes $90,000 a year and have housing so they can avoid public charge rule? They haven't exactly said what the new public charge rule is going to be, and we don't really know. They never enforced a law like this for 100 years, so we don't really know what's okay and what's not, how strict they're going to be. So I don't. There's no measurement to say if you have this, you're okay. If you have that, you're okay. To be safe, we just kind of say, hey, how's your English? Do you have education? Do you have any work history, training? What are you doing for health insurance? What is your personal health? Do you have any major health issues that could cost the taxpayers money? And then we kind of generally base on that, but there's no examples. There's no regulations. It's kind of made up. Silver Dragon says she came to Oz. We got married, then everything else followed. Nothing untoward was planned. Okay. Good luck on that. H says, how long the pause in the banned country is going to take? That's up to President Trump. Whenever President Trump decides that it's done, it has nothing to do with me. Vishal says, what will be the processing time for I-130 for U.S. citizen spouse in 2026? I don't know what the future is going to hold, but right now, 12 to 14 months, 12 to 16 months is a pretty solid average. So Dragon says, I appreciate it. You're welcome. And we hit the 30-minute mark. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us today. Download our guide, themarriageimmigrationlaw.com. Yes, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And we'll be back again next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on TikTok, Instagram. If you want your questions, more chance of being answered, I'll post it on YouTube. Like, for example, YouTube, someone just asked, waiting on I-130 approval. Website says responded by April. Hub waiting criminal decision. Any hope for us? So one is the website's unreliable with how much timelines they say. And your husband's waiting, has a criminal decision. I would 100% talk with the attorney in private. This is like too big to discuss here. But yeah, take your questions in there. And if you want to schedule a private consultation, go to jqqlaw.com/contact. That's jqqlaw.com/contact. We have a question about how much is the consultation. We don't answer fee questions here. Just go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. And you handle employment-based adjustment of status. We do handle the adjustment of status portion. We don't handle perm-based stuff. So if it's EB2, EB3 perm, we leave that to the company's attorney. But the adjustment of status portion, we help. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't hire lawyers for that or use the company's lawyer. They mess things up, and it's just a disaster. So it is much better to have your own lawyer on this, and we do handle that. But please go to our website so we can contact you with fee structures and stuff like that for scheduling a consultation. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Be safe. I'll see you all next Tuesday. Bye-bye.